The chairman of Matchroom Boxing, Barry Hearn, says that there is a possibility that Anthony Joshua may be able to fit in another voluntary defense before facing his mandatory challenger, Joseph Parker. Now, I have in a couple of articles read that Joseph Parker actually intends to fight twice before facing Anthony Joshua. I know he's got this fight coming up with Solomon Hermano, but I've also read that he's thinking about possibly taking another fight. Now, I don't know whether that's because he thinks Joshua is going to try and delay this mandatory defense, or whether it's because him and his team would like to get better prepared for this mandatory challenge for Anthony Joshua's IBF title. Perhaps this is why Eddie Hearn is talking about fighting Joseph Parker maybe in early 2017, because Parker's team are saying, you know what, we're going to have a couple more fights, so let's push the mandatory challenge back, a couple of weeks or couple of months. So maybe that's what it is. Either way, Barry Hearn reckons there may be an opportunity for Joshua to have one more fight before facing Parker. And some of the names that he's been talking about are Hughie Fury, Eric Molina, and the guy who he has at top of the list in terms of his preferences for fighting Joshua in his next voluntary defense, Bermane Stiverne. That's the guy that Barry Hearn would like to see Joshua fight next. That fight could possibly happen in November, October, November time. I've seen mixed opinions on Stiverne as a potential opponent for Anthony Joshua. Some people like it, some people don't like it, some people are kind of in the middle and indifferent. Personally, to me, it's not a bad fight. Stiverne has at least been in there with people like Deontay Wilder. So we have something to compare Joshua's performance against Stiverne to. And whenever you're dealing with a fighter who's, even though Anthony Joshua is a belt holder, he's still an up-and-coming fighter in a certain sense, because he's only had 17 fights. So we haven't yet seen him in various different situations. We haven't seen him in deep water. Other than the Dylan White fight, we've never seen this guy in deep water. We've never seen him go the distance. So somebody like Bermane Stiverne, who is experienced, who has fought Deontay Wilder and did go 12 rounds with him, we want to see what Joshua can do and compare it to what Deontay Wilder did. Will Bermane Stiverne be able to take Joshua to 12 rounds as he took Wilder to 12 rounds? That's why at least some people like the fight, because it will be a yardstick. We'll be able to compare. In terms of the matchup stylistically, Stiverne is not a good pressure fighter. And I said this even before he fought Deontay Wilder. In fact, I was saying this in my pre-fight videos going into the Wilder fight. I was saying Stiverne is not a good pressure fighter. People were trying to make out as though he was some Joe Frazier, Mike Tyson style fighter. He never was. He's not good on the front foot. He can't cut off the ring. His head movement is poor. And we saw that in the Wilder fight. That's why Wilder was able to outbox him fairly easily. That's why a 40-year-old out-of-shape Ray Austin was able to outbox Bermane Stiverne fairly easily before he eventually got caught in the, I think it was the 9th or 10th round and got knocked out by Stiverne. So it shouldn't be that great of a task for Anthony Joshua to do the same thing that Wilder did and just stick and move and, run circles around Bermane Stiverne, basically. But here's the thing. I don't think that Anthony Joshua, maybe I'm wrong about this. Again, we're dealing with a fighter who's up and coming. We haven't yet seen everything that he has to offer in his game, in his skill set. But I suspect that Anthony Joshua is not as comfortable and maybe not as good on his back foot as Deontay Wilder is. That's just a hunch I get. I did see Joshua fight on the back foot a number of times in the amateurs, and he didn't look comfortable to me. That was the amateurs. Maybe he's improved a lot since. Well, he's definitely improved a lot since then. But fighters tend to have natural aptitudes for fighting in particular ways. Some fighters have a natural aptitude for throwing punches in a particular way. Mike Tyson, just because of the way his body is configured, always seemed more comfortable throwing hooks rather than straight punches. Straight power shots anyway. Because of the way his body's configured. He just naturally would tend to hook rather than throw straight. And oftentimes his trainers, he had various different trainers throughout his career, would have to remind him, throw straight, throw straight, throw straight, throw the punch straight and you'll catch him. Stop looping the punches. And obviously there's a time for looping punches and there's a time for straight punches. But my point being, it was more natural for him to throw looping punches. Joshua to me seems like a guy who, going forward and attacking, to me seems more natural to him. And when he's on the back foot, again, when I saw him on the back foot in several fights in the amateurs, it didn't look natural. He looked very awkward on the back foot. And if Bermane Stiverne is able to actually push Anthony Joshua back and get him on the back foot, he might make it more difficult for Joshua than he was able to make it for Deontay Wilder. I might be wrong about that. Again, maybe Joshua will show me vast improvements in his back foot game. But that's just the hunch I have. Now, whether Stiverne's able to push Joshua back, that's another matter. I think Joshua is probably physically stronger than Deontay Wilder. So he may not have to fight on the back foot. He may be able to push Bermane Stiverne back. Another thing, though, is Stiverne, even though he's not a pressure fighter. He's not a naturally good pressure fighter. He's actually more comfortable on the back foot counterpunching. He's more comfortable when a fighter is coming at him like the way Chris Arreola was coming at him. And he likes, fighting off the rope sometimes, slipping and countering. Stiverne is very heavy-handed, and he does have pretty quick hands, particularly when he lets his shots go in combinations. Will there be any opportunities for him to be in that position that he favors on his back foot, counterpunching against Anthony Joshua? Stiverne has pretty short arms, particularly when in comparison to Joshua. So you would imagine that if Joshua's careful, Stiverne won't really get that many opportunities. The only thing is Joshua tends to throw in combination more so than Deontay Wilder. Wilder does throw combinations, but he don't normally throw more than maybe two, 3 punches unless he's got you hurt. He normally keeps it fairly basic. He'll throw, one shot, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Whereas Joshua will let his hands go and throw, several punches. Again, he lets his hands go a lot more when he's got you hurt. Most fighters do. But I just see Joshua as more of a combination puncher than Deontay Wilder is. Deontay Wilder I see as more of a sharpshooter, whereas Joshua is more of a combination puncher. Also, Wilder has quick reflexes for a big man, and he's very awkward and he stands kind of side on most of the time, whereas Joshua, I think, stands maybe slightly more square on, particularly when he's delivering his shots. And maybe that will give Bermane Stiverne more opportunity to land those counters. We've seen several times, and we saw this in the Dillian Whyte fight, that Anthony Joshua has a tendency when he's pushing an opponent back, particularly when he has them on the ropes, to lean in. And when he leans in, he can leave himself open and vulnerable to shots. We saw it in the Dillian Whyte fight when he got caught with the left hook, he was leaning in. We also saw it in the Dominic Breazeale fight, his last fight. He was leaning in against Breazeale at several points during that fight when he had Breazeale going, and Breazeale was able to land his own shots. Go back and look at that fight. So that is maybe a vulnerability there of Anthony Joshua. He likes to lean in when he's got you hurt. If he leans in like that against Bermane Stiverne, there's a chance there that Stiverne can catch him. So if him and his team are smart and they study Stiverne fights, they're going to have to be watching for that and trying to avoid that, because Stiverne is looking for that opportunity. Punching power-wise, Stiverne might even hit harder than Dillian Whyte. Some people would say he probably does. His power is certainly more proven at a higher level than Dillian Whyte's power. We can say that at this point in time. He stopped Chris Arreola, obviously, who's a very durable guy, had him on the floor multiple times. So, yeah, that's my feelings about the fight, people. It's not a terrible fight. And as long as we're going to get the Joseph Parker mandatory afterwards, I don't think it's bad. At least we can see how his performance compares to Deontay Wilder's performance. Would I prefer somebody else as a voluntary? Johan Dupar, I would say maybe. I probably prefer that. I think Dupar is stylistically a greater challenge for Joshua than Bermane Stiverne. And also would still be able to compare Joshua's performance against Dupar to Wilder's performance against Dupar. Is another guy that Deontay Wilder's fought. I just think Dupar, because he's big, he's 6'5", he's virtually the same height as Joshua. Very, very tough. Good chin. Rugged, comes forward. Don't have the power that Bermane Stiverne has, but he's very, very game, and I think he'll be able to do more offensively than Stiverne against Joshua. So, yeah, those are my feelings, people. Let me know how you feel about this potential fight in the comment section below. And also let me know what you think about Hughie Fury or Eric Molina as potential opponents for Anthony Joshua. The Hearns have made no secret of the fact that they've wanted Hughie Fury as an opponent for Anthony Joshua for quite some time now. But Team Fury have been shying away from that fight. Let's be real. They've been shying away from that fight for a while. They don't seem to want to put Hughie Fury in with Anthony Joshua for whatever reason. So, yeah, that's that. And as far as Eric Molina did well, I guess, in spots against Deontay Wilder, even though he was on the floor a hell of a lot. And he obviously is coming off that knockout victory over Thomas Adamek, which seems to have impressed a lot of people. Didn't really impress me. I think he was behind on points in the Adamek fight. And this is a Adamek who is washed up beyond belief. So I personally prefer to see Stiverne or Hughie Fury rather than Eric Molina. But that's just me. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.